Hi, I'm Tamara Berg, and you might be thinking, did I click on the wrong channel? Isn't she on Plum and Verdigris? Yes, this is my first time here. I snuck across the hall to play in the lounge. Now, I come from a long line of crafters, artists, designers, quilters, seamstresses. Crafting is in our blood. And I know I'm the only one like this, but since I work in a lot of different mediums, I have a lot of supplies. So I wanted to do a project today that took traditional supplies and used them in a different way. We're gonna make this chipboard banner, and I'm gonna show you how. We're going to be working with a ring book from Creative Imaginations, and this is their sky book in the heart shape, and it's got 6 pages. We're going to use each one of these chipboard pages for each letter of our banner. So the first thing we're going to do is just cover this with glue, just a plain old glue stick. Cover the whole surface, and then we're going to take our first paper, and this is the Honeydew notebook paper. I'm not going to use the scalloped edges on this one. And the reason why we're gluing this and then cutting it is because this is an asymmetrical heart. If you're holding it and then cutting it, if you turn it just a little bit or move it at all, you'll end up having to start over again. So I think this is a lot easier way. Put our cutting mat under, and we're just going to cut right along the edge of our chipboard heart with a craft knife. And when you're done, it'll look like this. So the next thing we're going to do is add our accent paper, and we're going to use also from Creative Imaginations in the Honeydew color this Victorian paper that has a really pretty scalloped edge to it, and so we're going to use that to cover about half of our heart. So I'm just going to use our glue stick and attach it in the same way that we attached the first one. So press that down, and then you're going to cut it out the same way you did the last one, and then when it's finished, it will look like this. Now the next thing that we need to do is add a hole to this heart. Because this is a binder book, we've got one hole in it, we need to add another one to the other side. So I've made a mark here about where I want to have my second hole. I'm just going to place the hole punch right there. And then I also need to punch through the paper on this side. And there we have our 2-holed heart. Next, we need to do some embellishment because this is pretty, it needs to be prettier. So I'm just going to use an acrylic paint pen and paint the raw edges of this as well as the top edge, about 1/8 of an inch around the entire heart. And when it's finished, it will look like this. Now, this is pretty, but we need more. So the next thing we're going to do is add some rub-ons. And this is a curved edge, and our rub-ons come in straight sheets. So we're going to need to cut them into individual little segments, and we're just going to add those on. I love using these rub-ons. They remind me of being a little kid and doing Easter egg decoration. So just continue with those rub-ons along until you have the entire edge finished. So now that we've got all of our rub-ons on and our edge embellished, now we're going to work on our tag. So here's the tag that I've rubber stamped, and like the other elements of this project, it needs to be sparkly, it needs to be pretty, it needs to be pumped up a little bit. So we're going to add a foil edge to this. We're using the foil kit, again from Creative Imaginations, their Bare Elements line. They've got a really pretty foil kit that has beautiful ocean colors, and there's a great green in there, and that's what I'm going to use to embellish this tag. The kit also comes with a foil glue, and this glue is really important to use because it dries tacky, and that's really important to make the foil adhere to the paper. So I'm just going to use my fingers and put a little bit of this glue on my finger, and then brush the edge of our tag with the glue. And then it needs to dry for about 15 minutes until it's clear, until you can't see the white anymore. And then when that piece is all dry and the glue is dried, it's going to look like this. But you can see it's still a little bit tacky here on the edge, and that's what's key for adhering the foil. We're going to be using the green color foil from the Ocean Kit. Now you can just take this foil and drape it all the way over the tag to do the foiling, but I like to be a little bit conservative so that I can get more use out of our foil. So I'm just going to place this edge right over the edge of our tag and then burnish it a little bit with your fingers. Make sure you get some nice contact between the foil and the glue. And we have a foiled edge. Now there are a couple places here where it didn't adhere, so I'm just going to go back and re-burnish, and then just continue all the way around until the tag is completely finished. So now we have our completely foiled tag, and we're going to just add a brad to the top of this. And this brad is merely decorative. And now the tag is finished, and we're going to set it aside and work on our next element. So the next thing that we're going to be working with is a transparency sheet from Creative Imaginations. They've got some beautiful colors and some really pretty styles. Now this is a set of chipboard embellishments that I've used before, and there is this little void right here that I'm actually going to use as a template. People tell you throw away stuff, you need to pare down your supplies. Tell them, no, I need everything, because we are going to make a template out of this, what some people would call trash. I call it a treasure. Okay, so we're just going to use the paint pen, and I'm just tracing around the petals onto our transparency sheet. Then when all these petals are painted in, then we're just going to cut them out using a pair of scissors. And when they're finished, it'll look like this. Now this is where the magic begins. We are going to use a candle to create some dimension with this flower. Now these transparency plastics are really, really fine, and if you're using a candle, make sure that you've got safety measures nearby. You've got a fire extinguisher. You don't want this catching on fire. Okay, so we're just going to take the petal of this flower and hold it about 2 inches above the flame, and it will start to curl. Sometimes it curls just perfectly, exactly the way you want it. Sometimes you have to coax it a little bit. Sometimes they curl in the opposite direction, and if they do that, all you have to do is grab a pen or a pencil, fold it over, and then you can get the perfect petal turn there. There is our finished flower. So now this is our heart that we started off the project with. So now we're going to add all of our elements together to make our banner. We've got our tag here, and I'm just attaching that with little adhesive dots. And then I'm going to attach my flower, and it's going to go up here near this hole. Make sure you don't cover the hole, because we do need to have that available. We've got a little button, cute, and we've got a little flower, and I think it's done. So next, we're just going to bring in our next letter and tie them together. That's how we're going to make this a banner. So I've got ribbon here with some wording on it, and I've used about 8 inches worth of ribbon, and I'm just going to tie these two together. And I'm going to use a square knot to tie them together because we've got a lot going on this project. I think this will look pretty with just a square knot. Cut those off on an angle. And there we have the first 2 letters. Then we're going to use our ring to the first letter here. That's how we're going to be able to let people hang this from the wall, and embellish that with some ribbon as well. You'll need another ring for the other side of the banner. It only comes with 1 ring because this is starting as a book, but now we've made a banner, so you will need to get an extra ring. Just creating some extra little embellishments. So keep going until you think you're done, and when you're finished, it will look something like this one. Isn't that fabulous? Wouldn't you love having that over your creative space in your studio where you work? This would make a beautiful banner for a birthday party that someone would use afterwards and keep. Or also, what about over a baby's crib? You could do beautiful embellishments for a baby, or in a child's room, or I think this would make a fantastic beauty queen sash, right? But wait, this started as a book, so let me show you some other ideas we've come up with. Now this is the book that the kit started with, and then we've also got another book here that we used that melting on the transparency technique to create some really pretty and very different flowers. I just think that adds such a great element of dimension to this project. So whether you're working to define your space or maybe take some old supplies and make them into something new, get out there, make something beautiful. See you next time.
For step-by-step instructions on how to create this week's project, Download the design guide featuring special make-it-your-own bonus tips.